Welcome back, everyone. If you're new here, my name is Bryan Jenks, and today we're talking about the new Obsidian releases 10.2 and 3. We are up to version 10.5 for the Insider's release now, but we're looking at mostly just the really shiny new features, and some of them have just been really long desired and might actually shake up some of your existing workflows. And we're going to cover these all in detail today. So I'm mainly talking about two particular releases, 10.2 and 10.3. 4 and 5 and 0 and 1 all were just certain other features or mostly bug fixes and improvements, things I'm not really going to cover. I'm going to cover mostly just the shiny stuff. And some of the things we've seen have been query blocks, nested tags, and by nested tags I mean we can have parent, child, 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 etc. tags and actually have a visual hierarchy of our tagging system. And we also have 3 different new searches for content within notes and much more. And we're going to cover all of these things now. So without further ado, let's jump right in. The first thing we're going to talk about is the 10.2 edition of query blocks. Query blocks look just like how Mermaid.js might look like, or basically any non-standard programming language code fence block area. So typically we do our code fences with 3 backticks to open and close, and then at the top we also list out the language. So we could do Python and print, if I could spell, print hello world, and that is now a code block. It renders, that's it. That's what we're used to, code fence areas. Now with Mermaid, you would also just do Mermaid, and then actually put the custom Mermaid syntax in there and develop flowcharts. But what we now have is query blocks, which means you can put query in here. And this is something unique to Obsidian, as far as I know. I don't remember seeing this implemented in anything else that uses Markdown. And what we're allowed to do with this is any sort of search we normally perform. So if we inputted a search in our search bar, any of these regular expressions or tags or whatever we want to put in there, we can actually put those into these query blocks and have the exact same search returned. So let's look at a complex search that I have. So this one searches for my inbox tag, and it says remove anything you encounter that looks like my placeholder text. Basically, it's saying ignore my templates and ignore the index file. Now, this doesn't really work anymore with the new tagging system, but what this might do is show all these different results here. So what I can do is I can just take this search exactly how it is, copy it, put it inside of this query block, and then render and preview, and those search results are returned. That's it. That is it. Any search you put in here, the results that are here, you can have them in here. So, okay, but we already have the search pane. Why do you need that? Well, here's a potential use case. Let's just say you have a template that every time you create a new document, I have my literature note templates where I can insert something like, hey, it's a paper, and it has all this stuff for a paper, including my metadata. So what you might want to do is say, hey, inside of this block here, we're going to put the, let's do title. And with that, it'll insert the name of your current note when you make it. So in this case, that would have been replaced to Workbench. And now if I render that, it'll actually show wherever Workbench is found. So in this case, it's going to show the content and the name of the file. Okay, this isn't really a good example because there's only one Workbench file. But what does this really mean? What this means is anytime you want to search for anything linked to your note, you can basically have embedded backlinks inside of your notes page, meaning you don't need to have your backlinks pane open. And if you don't want to use Obsidian Publish, where it natively just puts backlinks at the bottom of your page, and I think you can actually turn that off depending on the settings you have. But if you don't want Obsidian Publish, you just want a vault to yourself or a vault to share with others, and you want to have backlinks at the bottom of those pages embedded in the document itself, you can now do that with these query blocks. So let's just do something where, let's just put index, because I know index is connected to a lot of different things. So if I did index, and then I rendered this, you can see all the different mocks, my maps of content that link to my index note. And so that's what is listed here. It's basically all of my backlinks. That's a really great use of these query blocks. And you can imagine the complex possibilities. I've heard of some really great examples from some of you guys and gals in email where you're prepending a special character for some of your notes, such as a $sign for companies and another symbol for people. And so you can search by the name of a company and immediately put inside of a query block the list of all of those employees, just based on the way you tag and name your notes. Really great ideas. And there's a lot of power you can do with this if you want to use it. And one final example I'm going to list that I actually am using right myself and playing around with it is an aggregator of all of your quote unquote tasks that you have in Obsidian. I'm not going to get into task management just because I use Todoist and I have the Todoist plugin in my daily notes so I can see all my daily tasks in my daily note with Todoist. But let's just say you just want to get around to notes. You need to fix it and flesh out some notes and you want to just get around to something that you didn't do yet. You don't want to make a task in your task management software for that. Well, I use a tag where I actually have a check mark here. And this check mark is all of my to-do items. So what you might want to do is say have a tag for to-do items, and I could just do tag. There we go. And so this will actually find every single instance where I have one of those tags listed. And so this way I can easily see in a single note where all of these items are floating around, the files and exactly inline. I can't really expand it to show more context like I can in this search pane with expand to show more, but it still is a useful way of just listing out all of your tasks. And so what I actually have is a note called to do where it just lists this out. And I could easily transclude this to do note or just put the query block itself. Either way. And so those are some really cool uses you might have for these new query blocks. If you do anything really cool or crazy or awesome with these, let me know. I'd love to see how you're using them. So release 10.3 got us a lot of new features, and including one that has been asked for months. I wasn't expecting this to arrive. When it dropped, I was just over the moon excited to see how I could fit this into my workflow. I've heard about this from other applications like Bear and Noteplan 3, where you can have tags the way we normally use them, hashtag something, and then / and then have nested tags. So that way you could basically have, project / idea / task, and you could have multiple tasks for multiple ideas all inside a parent project tag. And the way this would render would be different, and it would actually show this nesting of tags. Now, we actually have this functionality in Obsidian, and there's some things I want to talk about and show you on how to use them and some things you might want to know about them. So first of all, what is the syntax? What does it look like? Well, inside of your text, not in your YAML header, but inside your text, all you would do is a normal tag. So in this case, you could just do tag. And let's actually rename this to project, like my example. Okay, so we now have a project tag. Now you can ignore all of this stuff going on here that I have set up, but hey, we have a project tag now. Great. So now we can also do project, and we can make a child tag of /idea. And now you can see, ooh, this is neat. So now we have two tags of project because, hey, it did occur twice. But now we have a sub tag, in this case it is a child tag, of idea. That's neat. So now let's watch how this changes again when we add another layer. So project, so it's already popped up in the search menu, project / idea, great. But now we're gonna add task. And so now you can see yes, we do have 2 times we listed project and idea, and now 1 time where we listed task. And in this way, we're able to list out several different options for tags we have here. Now, how does this affect normal search? How does this affect anything else that we're normally using? Well, inside of your YAML header, where we list our tags like this, we all know, hopefully by now, if you haven't seen my update video on the YAML tags, go check that one out. But we can just list a single tag, like I have this little gear icon here. Let's actually just comment this out, and I'll make a new one just for the example purposes. So tags, and what we can do is we can just have a single, project. There we go. There's a tag. That's all you need. Now, inside of the YAML header, you don't use the hashtag or the octothorpe, depending on what you know it as. You could just say project, and now this will increase now to 4. So you don't have to use the hashtag inside of the YAML header. So if you want to list out multiple tags, what we know we can do is we can either put it in the square brackets and have comma separated, which is the YAML array syntax. What we can also do is just break it a line, do a couple spaces to indent, and then list it out as a list. This is also array syntax. But one reason why I started using nested tags instead of listing out multiple tags for different things is that it's cleaner. It all fits on a single line and it just looks nicer. How does that look? So if I have a nested tag, all I have to do is say project, that is now the tag. This increments to 4. No hashtag, no autocomplete, but /idea/task. And now you see these numbers will automatically increment upwards, 3 and now 2, so that this is now recognized as having that entire nested tag. Pretty neat. Now, what happens if you search for anything specific in here? So if I search for tag, or maybe tags, there we go. If I search for tags and I put in project, I might be tag then, project, you can see, it finds all of the inline notes, or all the inline tags. It finds these 3. Okay, cool. What happens if I search for idea or task? These are the nested children, not the parent name of the tag, which is project. We have child and grandchild, idea and task. What happens if I search for idea? So if I search for idea, nothing found. So it's not going to find the children tags by themselves. You actually need to specify the parent. And by specifying the parent, everything below that parent is also returned, which can or cannot be a downer, depending on how you want to use this system. So I can't just say, I want to look at idea and everything below idea, or just idea. You can't do those. It has to be the actual top level parent, and then anything below it will also be returned. So you're not able to say, hey, just this one, or just this section. You have to do the whole thing. So depending on how you use this feature, that might be something that is not what you wanted, but that's what it is. The same thing we're going to show off here is task, nothing is returned. So what you can do is, of course, project, idea, and now it's going to find only those 2 because now we've got no more granular search. So now it's only going to pick up these 2 because these 2 actually have idea in there, /task. So from this way, you're able to drill into and down to lower levels of granularity, but you can't just start in the middle and do that. So just be aware of that. Now, those are several different examples of using tags in this way. Now, what I do with my literature notes and how I'm actually using this feature is, if you've been following my channel right now, you know that for a while that you know that I actually use emojis as my tags. And so what I started doing is I have like my literature notes here, and then I have each different type is now a actual type of tag. So normally I was just doing statuses for my tags, which is just evergreen notes, seedlings, things in the incubator, things to work on, which are all these 3. And they're listed under the parent memo or note emoji. So this way I can say, hey, all my notes, these are the 3 types of notes that I have in the stages of processing. But now I also have my inputs, which is normally I had this one, the inbox, which is everything I'm processing, all of my inputs. Now, what I have as an indicator of status of those things is I now have nested tags for different color squares depending on how I'm processing. So if I have completed processing of an input item, in this case, this is a research paper, I've completed 1 research paper in here, then that's a green. If it's in the middle of processing, it's an orange, yellow, red, whatever. And there's different stages of processing indicated by different colors of squares. And on my index note and my tag taxonomy note, I actually explain this a little bit more in detail. So if I was going to do tags, status tags. So this actually explains like how I actually use these. So this one's not processing. I'm actually synthesizing some notes out of it, and I'm completed with that note. So I got several here, several papers I'm going over, and that's how I'm actually using these nested tags in that system. And I have one here where I have some people notes, and I might differentiate that out in the future. But the cool thing about having these parent-child tags is that the parent can just be the category, and then the children notes can get into actual groupings or subsets and get into more granularity of these different tags. Now, the cool thing is if I click on one of these things, like I want to see those research papers that are input, research paper, and currently processing, click that tag, and it inserts the entire nested tag, and it finds all of those particular items down to the individual granularity. That's, a lot of emojis to insert. Even with Alfred, that's a lot of just like, launch Alfred, say an emoji, and then I want a red square. That's a lot to type over and over and over again. Yeah. So what I actually do is I have, templates where I can already have the nested tags set up, and all I need to insert is like one more for just the status of whatever it is. And in this way, this is how I'm actually using these nested tags myself for indicators of status and just general usage. Here's actually an error that I need to fix, and there we go. So that is nested tags, and hopefully you found these useful. Oh, I almost forgot. So one more thing we have with the nested tags is a new button in the tag pane that lets us see our nested tags in one of two views. We have this nested hierarchy, which I prefer, so I can see my things broken down and they're sorted by most frequent to least frequent occurrence. So I can see, yes, my notes occur the most frequently, then my inputs. Now, if I turn this off, it now shows a flat view where it just lists out all of these items based on, again, occurrence. We could do, tag name and have them sort by name in this way. That would work fine. Personally, I just like frequency occurrence and the hierarchical view of my nested tags. So that is the last feature of the nested tags. If you use these, if you use this view, let me know how you use it. I'm really geeking out over this feature and trying to see how I can really actually make this useful and not just eye candy. So let me know how you use this, or do you use it? Next thing we're going to cover is the brand new searches that we have available to us. These 3 new searches will let us look at our content inside of our notes with differing scopes and scales of granularity based on a particular level of searching that you want to perform, either block, line, or section. So before we do that, I want to let you guys know that I do have a newsletter that I have been putting out that will tell you like what I've been up to, what kind of new tools I find, really great workflows, hit tips, tricks, hacks, ideas, and as well as updates on the comprehensive 0 to 99 Obsidian course I have been working on, which will take you from absolutely never touched the application before to anything that I'm currently doing in the application, every technology that touches it, every plugin, and basically going over all things Obsidian. I aim to make it as comprehensive as possible to cover everything you might want to know to build yourself your own comprehensive workflow. But that is available in the link in the description and the pinned comment below, and let's get into these searches. So we have 3 new searches, and I'll start with the largest scope and go into the more granular scope. So the first scope we have is section. Now, when it comes to these 3 searches, they all basically return the exact same thing. It really is just saying how deep do we want to look into each of these documents, because certainly the more granular you get with the more notes that you have, the more computationally expensive these searches will be. If you're just searching the name of a file and if anything occurs in the content of a file, that's still going to be pretty expensive. But if you just search for just the names of files, less so. But if you search for every individual block in every file in your vault, that's going to be pretty expensive and might take a while. But really, they all return pretty much the same thing, and you're going to see that result here. So what I have here is 2 different headings, a 3rd level and a 4th level, a block of text where spaced repetition is part of that block, and then one where it is on the next line. Okay. Now, what I'm searching for here is first just my workbench note, so it only shows us this note, but then section. And in section, I'm looking for spaced repetition, just the word spaced repetition. We get 2 results, both of those different sections that we had here. If I removed a section, it still would show us the exact same result, so it doesn't matter. Now, if I change section to line, we're still going to get the exact same results. If we change line to block, we're going to get, again, the exact same results. Personally, I haven't used any of these yet, and I haven't really seen a need to just yet, but then again, I don't have a massive vault because I'm not just pouring a bunch of stuff in here all the time. So it depends. For those people who have thousands and thousands of notes, this might be something that's really handy and helpful. So those are the 3 brand new searches we have available to us. The last 2 features I'm going to really talk about are just some quality of life changes and one thing that you might find useful, maybe not. I personally haven't found any use for this really, but one thing you can do is you can now hover over these files and see their created and modified date time. Now, one thing to know is that you do have something that does like a mass modification. So doing something like a sed expression where you do a search and replace across all the files in your vault, even if something was actually replaced in that file, if you make it scan all these files with a sed search and replace, because of the way that you have to do this on Mac OS, where you have to basically create a backup file and then remove those backup files afterwards. I digress. long story short is it's going to screw with your created time on these files if you're using sed on macOS. Annoying, not really anything I care about, but just be aware that's why mine says created on a couple days ago when this was obviously created almost a month ago. So just be wary of that. But it will actually show you your last modified and your created date time of your notes on hover. Now, the other last thing I was going to mention is you can now take these notes and you can grab it from the File Explorer here, click and drag, and now drop this. Oh, you see that little tooltip open in this pane. So now dropping this onto, not inside the document, but onto the actual pane here, you see that tooltip, dropping it will now open up that document inside of this pane. If we opened up another pane, so I have like say my workbench open here, and I see, it has to be in preview though. In preview mode, I can say, hey, I want to see this note. I'm going to click that, drag it over to this pane. There's the tooltip. And now you can actually open up links by clicking and dragging from the File Explorer and in preview mode on these different links. So hopefully you found these features interesting. If you're doing anything really cool with these or want to know a little bit more about them, let us know in the comments below. Let me know how you're using this, how you plan to use it, and what you think about it. And before I go, a quick note of thanks to the patrons who support this channel. Thank you, Devin, Rito, Leonardo, Ed, Brandon, Klaus, Alberto, Clark, Joel, John, and Paul. Donating and supporting this channel is not required, and the fact that you do it is awesome. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. And if anyone else wants to support, you can support me best on GitHub sponsors, which does not charge any fees for anything that I receive. Patreon does take a cut, but Patreon is just fine. Anything, buy me a coffee, PayPal, any of these things is welcome. Not required at all, but it's all appreciated. If you want to chat more with me, you can join my Discord server. Link to that is in the description below. And you can sign up to my newsletter in the description or pinned comment. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one.